Hi guys, this is Sai Kumar Kortiwada. In this video, we will learn about basic two-way binding in Angular. Before going to this particular series, please try to watch my previous videos for better understanding. For understanding the traditional two-way binding, please watch my previous video. I'll provide the link in the description. Let's understand basic two-way binding in Angular. For understanding this, let me quickly jump into Visual Studio Code. Here I have created a project by the name Angular tutorial, and in this I have created a component which is a default component created by Angular CLI, that is app component. So now let's understand two-way binding in Angular. Let me click on app.component.html and also let me open our app.component.ts. These are the two files we will be trying to experiment, and now let me create one input field, input type text, and also let me give a placeholder ngModel test. So let me save this and let me run the application by using ngServe. Hit enter. By the time we will try to understand what is two-way binding. Two-way binding is nothing but whenever you want to transfer the data from your view to controller and controller to view simultaneously, that is called as two-way binding. So that means one-way binding from controller to view and one-way binding from view to control. The combination of these two one-way bindings is called as a two-way binding. That can be achieved very easily by using one of the method called as template driven forms. That is nothing but ngModel. So we can achieve two-way binding in Angular by using ngModel. Before going to the deep understanding of ngModel, let's understand this example. If you see the output, let me reload this browser, and it has created a input field. Let me zoom it. And now this input field is a normal HTML field which is not having any type of bindings. Let me go back to Visual Studio Code and let me create one variable. What I can create is I can create something called as model test, which is of string type. I have assigned a string type which is empty. Now this can be used as an interpolation in our application to see the output. That means we are accessing the variables from the controller to the view by using one of the mechanism called as interpolation. Let me paste here and save it. Go to the browser. You are not seeing anything because the model test variable is empty. Let me give some value, Sai Kumar. So this is a hard coded value. Let me save this, and if you see here we can see Sai Kumar. So now what I want to do is I don't want to print this model test directly. Instead what I want to do is whatever the value which was typed in this particular input field, that has to be rendered in our model test. What I want to do is I want to create a two-way binding. That means when something happened to my input field, it has to known to my controller, and whenever there is a change in the controller, that has to be known by view. So what I'll do is there is a syntax that is a combination of property binding and event binding. Property binding plus event binding, and there is a keyword which is used by Angular called as ngModel, model model, and equal to this has to be given a value which is defined in our controller. Already I have defined this variable. Let me copy this variable and paste here. Let me save this, and you saw an error. What is the error? Let's understand this. Type event is not assignable to the type string. That means ngModel is a type of event, whereas model test is a type of string, and what it defines. So actually speaking, what's its understanding is whenever we have an input field with an ngModel, that is not a property which is given by HTML. It is a property which is given by Angular. So we have to tell our application ngModel is the one which we need to identify by our input field. So let me go to our module and import one module called as forms module. Whenever you are using a forms module in your app module, then your app module is capable of understanding this ngModel property. So it's compiling again, and go to the TS file. Now model test is there and it was compiled successfully. Let me go back, and what I'll do is I'll try to type something. You can see here. So Sai Kumar, or whatever you want to type, you can type ngModel. So this is the things which we can type, and it is already affecting our HTML as well as the TS. Let's understand this. ngModel. Whenever I type this one, I'm typing on my HTML. That means view. That is transferred to our TS. If you see here, whenever I'm typing something here, this ngModel is capturing that model test is present in our TS. So the TS value is storing that particular model test, and that model test is reflecting on your view. That means whenever I type something, it is transferred to our controller, and the data is transferred from the controller again back to the view. So that is how you can able to see the output at a time. That means simultaneously. So that is how your simple HTML with two-way binding will work. Points to be remembering. Whenever you want to use an ngModel on your HTML content, it is not used directly. You have to import a module called as forms module. Whenever you import this forms module, then our module or the components are capable of understanding these particular properties which are defined by Angular. Whereas the placeholder and the type which is already given by HTML itself, so there is no need to import any modules for the type and placeholder. This is one of the way where you can find your ngModel and you can achieve your two-way binding. So I have said that model test is saving whatever the data we have entered here. Let's confirm that too. So what I will do is I'll click on button, and here what I'll do is check value. So there is a button name called as check value, and I'm writing an event called as click event, and this click event should have a method. Let me define the method first. Go to the TS file and let me define the method. So get model value, and here what I will do is I'll try to console my model test. So console.log of this dot model test. So let me save this. Let me copy this get model value. Let me go back to the HTML, paste inside the click event, save this. Okay. So now whenever I click this particular get model value, the value inside this model test should be the value which I have been entered in my input field. Let me go back to the browser and let me try to enter something like Sai Kumar. And before clicking on the button, let me inspect this, clear the console and click on the check value. If you see here, the value which is present inside my input field has been displayed in my console. That means the model test value has been changed. Now what I want to do is I want to change the value. That means set model value. When I change something from my controller, the model value has to be changed. So what I will do is this dot set model value equal to updated the test model value. So we can use, instead of using this dot set model, I need to use model test. Let me save this, and whenever I call this method, that has to update this particular model test. So what I'll do is let me go to the HTML content and let me create one more button where it will set the model value. So let me copy the method name set model value and paste in my HTML. Let me save this, and whenever the user clicks on the set model test, it has to call this particular method and it has to change the model test value. Whenever the model test value has been changed, this model test is used in two places. One is in my ngModel as well as in my interpolation. So what I'll do is set value. Let me save this and go back. Click on the set value. You can see updated the model value. Let me remove all this value and click on Sai and check value. You are seeing Sai, and let me click on set value. You are seeing updated the model value. Again you click on the check value, updated the model value. That means here the communication is happening between our view and the controller simultaneously. Whenever I change my view with the ngModel, it will affect my variable in the controller. Whenever I change the value in the controller, it will affect our view. That is how your two-way data binding will work. So let me use a return value because it is not doing anything. Let me return that value. So this dot model test. So this is my return value, for example. Even if you return also, nothing will happen. If you don't return also, nothing will happen. Let me test again. Hi, and set value, updated the model value. So this is how your two-way binding will work. This is about a basic understanding of two-way binding. In the next video, we will see more about ngModel and how to use inside the forms. Hope you guys like my video. If you like my video, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off. Thank you.